What's up everyone? Welcome to another video. In this one I'm going to talk about the differences between the DJI Avata and a true FPV drone and why I've switched to using the FPV drone more than the DJI Avata, even though I started learning how to fly FPV with the DJI Avata. Hopefully this will help you decide which one to buy if you're trying to get into FPV and whether you should go for a true FPV drone if you already have the DJI Avata. So a lot of FPV drones right now come with the bind and flies. So it's just as easy as buying a pre-built drone and connecting it with your goggles and controller and it's ready to fly instead of like buying a frame and then working on it. So this drone is the GEP-RC Mark V, which has the DJI O3 air unit. So basically it has the same camera as the one on the DJI Avata. It also has about 20 gigs of internal memory, just like the DJI Avata. Action cameras give you a lot of flexibility because you have more options and better quality. Last year, I mounted the Hero 11 on the DJI Avata. It didn't do as well as I'd hoped because I think it was the weight of the camera, and the DJI Avata also doesn't do well at all with strong winds, and this is without an action camera mounted on it. And if you're interested in mounts for the DJI Avata, you can check out Original Dobo's store. He sells them. You can find the link in the description below. And because I'm able to mount the Hero 12 now on the GEP-RC Mark V without any issues of it flying and weight issues, it does perfectly fine because I can set my options such as frame rate and resolution and the picture profile for what I want to use compared to the one that's on the DJI Avata or the O3 Air unit, which is 4K 60 and you have decent light color profile. Yes, it's 10-bit and has flat color profile, but action cameras have more options. Why I also tend to use the Hero 12 is because of its 8:7 aspect ratio, which allows you for cropping in whether it's horizontal or vertical. However, with the O3 Air unit or the DJI Avata, you are only limited to 16:9. So I started learning to fly in manual mode with the DJI Avata. So I started off with a simulator and then moved on to trying it with the Avata. Now, the whole process of how I started off learning to fly in manual mode is another video, so I'll link it in the description below. You can find it at the end of this video in case you're interested. Flying in manual mode removes all those restrictions and you can fly freely. However, there are certain limitations when doing maneuvers with the DJI Avata, and it can be a little scary depending on where you're flying. Now, what I mean by that is when you make some sharp turns, certain maneuvers, it just flips back into a hovering mode. Now, because I bought the DJI Avata, I got the goggles too with it and the FPV controller as well. So when I bought the GEP-RC Mark V, it already had the DJI O3 system in it, which means I could connect my DJI goggles too and my FPV controller too, just as easy. Now, the one really good thing about the DJI Avata is that even though it's an FPV drone, you can still flip it into sport or normal mode, which will let it hover. Now, this is an underrated feature because when you're waiting for a certain shot to line up or something, with a true FPV drone, you'll have to always compensate to keep it steady or just land it and then take off after. However, with the DJI Avata, you can just flip in normal mode or hit the brake button and it will just hover in place. Another good feature is that it has a return to home function. So when you lose connection with your goggles, which you most likely will in quite a few situations, it'll flip into the return to home mode and then just start flying back to you. And then once you gain connection, you can fly normally again. However, that does not apply with true FPV drones, such as the one that I have. With traditional FPV drones, you can install a GPS module on it. Now, it doesn't work as perfectly or as well as the DJI's return to home, but it is something. So what happens is when you lose connection, it will usually hover in place and I think try to fly back to you. Now, I haven't tried this myself personally, but I've watched a few videos on it. Now, if you also want to be a little more safe with traditional FPV drones, there's two other modes known as the horizon mode and angle mode. So with angle mode, you can't really turn and do those FPV maneuvers. However, with the horizon mode, you can do those maneuvers, but then once you let go of the sticks, it'll flip back to horizon mode or keep itself steady. If you lose connection with your traditional FPV drone, there's not much you can do except for just trying to gain some altitude and then regain connection and fly back to you. However, I did lose connection once and it just went flying straight to the ground. So if you currently have the DJI Avata and you're flying well in manual mode and you want to expand your horizons, you should really consider going for a traditional FPV drone, especially since you already have the DJI goggles 2 and the FPV controller 2, and a lot of these drones, FPV drones these days come with the DJI O3 Air unit, so it's easy for you to just connect and fly. Another good thing about these traditional FPV drones is that they're made to last. I mean, these drones can definitely take a beating, and you can always like fix them up again once you crash them, and believe me, you'll be crashing your traditional FPV drones quite a bit. Now, I'm not saying that the DJI Avata cannot take a beating. Of course it can, and you can just send it to DJI Care Refresh and then get a replacement one back. However, you can't really do that with traditional FPV drones because you'll have to work in it and fix it yourself, or probably get someone else to do it for you. And there's a ton of videos out there to guide you through every process or whatever it is that you are probably having a problem with. Now, if you're someone who's looking to get into FPV, also keep in mind about batteries. Now, when you buy a true FPV drone, you're also going to have to buy LiPo batteries and buy a LiPo battery charger too. Now, if you're someone who is looking to get into FPV and you're deciding which one to go for, I would definitely suggest going for the DJI Avata first. It has a lot of safety features for someone who's new to FPV and to get a good feel of it. And once you're confident enough and you learn to fly in manual mode, then eventually you should get yourself a traditional FPV drone. Guys, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll make sure to answer them as soon as possible. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already for future videos. I'll see you in the next one.